Hey everyone. So, I'm pretty sure we've all had those secret relationships we've kept hidden, especially if you're LGBT and you kind of need to stay in the closet. Um, my mom was supportive of me being LGBT. After all, I got another family member who is. But my lovely, toxic ex-girlfriend was in the closet because she had a very homophobic mother. And that's exactly the topic of this video. Talking about my very manipulative and emotionally, I wouldn't say abusive, but emotionally destructive ex-girlfriend. So, yeah. Let's get into this. The first thing I should probably bring up about my ex-girlfriend is she is autistic. But there is a very high difference between actions you do as an autistic, like normal things like stimming, all that shit, and being a jerk. And the stuff she did wasn't being autistic. It was poor choices that she knew were poor choices, but still made those poor choices anyway. Just because you're autistic doesn't mean you can get away with shitty stuff. I'm autistic. And when I make a shitty mistake and someone points it out, I take responsibility for it and try to fix the fucking problem right off the gate. What she did is she repeated these things multiple times even after I brought it up to her and she quote-unquote apologized. Because technically it's not an official apology when you don't stand for it. So, let's get into this. I won't go into all the details, of course, because, of course, this was a while ago, and I don't have all the messages to be factual on all the conversations we had, and I don't want to misquotation anything, but I do remember a lot of stuff that happened. So, let's get into it. I'm sorry, the pillow is, like, in the way. I'm gonna move that down. Okay. The lighting's gonna be a little weird. That's fine. So, we started off as friends in like 6th grade. I was undiagnosed with autism. I knew she had autism. She was very vocal about it. So, I was like, whatever. She has autism. Whatever. But yeah, we were friends, and she was dating Dakota at the time. But after... Oh, fuck. I should not have said that name. Fuck. I'm sorry for name dropping. Fuck. Okay, pretend you didn't hear that. We're no longer gonna mention the dude's name, but let's just say she was dating someone else at the time, okay? She broke up with him. And, of course, me trying to be a peaceful friend, because I was friends with both of them. And I now know, don't get into the middle of shit, you shouldn't, but then again, I was in 6th grade, and I didn't want to be in the middle or have to choose sides, so I brought them both in a FaceTime to try to figure out what was happening, just to get a mutual ground so I don't have to pick sides, because I hate doing that. But let's just say this girl, my ex-girlfriend's ex-boyfriend, then mentioned some things that I definitely realized were true now, looking back. She had mentioned that she wasn't the best, and she would make jokes that were not always nice jokes to make, and boy did I realize that later, because she pulled a prank on me that was absolutely not funny. We'll get into that in a minute. Sorry, I'm also getting a lot of air hunger right now. But, yeah. So, those are some red flags, but I again didn't want to choose sides since I was still friends with both of them. And who knows, maybe he was just, again, 6-year-old brain. I was dumb. So I didn't know what to believe, okay? So I just started talking to both of them separately and not about each other. That was the first and last time I ever intervened with shit like that. So I stay on mutual ground. I learned my lesson on that one. But after a while, me and, let's just call her Pixie. Me and Pixie both realized we had mutual feelings for each other, but so we quote unquote dated, because it really wasn't dating. But we flirted through messages, shit like that. We were dating in secret because her mom was an extreme homophobic and alcoholic. Sorry, it's gotta be brought up for context of this shit. Okay, I'm sorry. So she would have sleepovers at my place, and it was fun. No big deal. And when we made these feelings, mutual for each other, I noticed to start to see some darker colors to her. You know how at the in the beginning someone has so many red flags and everyone else can see them but you can't? Yeah, that happened to me. So this girl started to treat me as her therapist. I shouldn't have put quotes around that because I'm not being sarcastic, she did. But since I was so in love with this girl, I kept crawling back like an idiot. I learned better not to do that. Now, if any of my friends or stuff, people are going to treat me bad, they're out the door. See you later. Goodbye. But she started to treat me as a therapist. She would only message me when she was having an emotional problem or something like that. And me being a healthy quote-unquote girlfriend, I would of course be there to comfort her like a healthy person. But it got out of hand. She was doing it so much to the point where it was becoming emotionally dragging, and it was starting to weigh me down a lot. Now listen, I get venting to your friends or partner is a normal thing, healthy even, but also seeing a professional therapist who's supposed to actually listen to you bare your soul is also just as healthy and more recommended, because you can also weigh down your partner, and yeah, it or a friend, it can be a lot of problems. So it was weighing me down, so I asked her, girl, I love you, but please chill. But this is when the hypocritical thing starts to come into play. Now, before I get into what happened, let me give you a little context. Remember, as I said, she treated me like a therapist. Me being healthy, I wanted to be there for her. But when it came to me, kind of venting little minor problems, not like big, huge, mother freaking issues, just tiny, minuscule problems, just like everyday school shit problems, she wouldn't be there to comfort me at all. She would leave me on red, not answer me, or anything. She would only talk to me when it benefited her. And then I started to realize that her ex-boyfriend's things that he was saying were kind of starting to be true. But since I was in love and an idiot, I wasn't listening to my gut, and I just pretended it was fine. 'Cause, yeah. But she started to do this for years. And I had enough, to say the least. I confronted her about everything that she was doing. But before I confronted her, there's one joke that I mentioned earlier that I want to get into. After her and I kind of did a split thing, she started dating boys again, but we were still friends. I don't even know if we were that at that point. But we were still friends. But this girl, oh my god, she sent me a picture of a fake positive pregnancy test. Me not knowing that, I thought it was legit and she was actually pregnant. And then she went on to joke around saying she was going to abort the child. Me not having a say, I obviously was scared, but still wanting to be there for her, saying it's your choice, after all, it's your life. But then she goes around to say that it was a prank. I got livid with this bitch, because you shouldn't joke around like that. There are real teens that do get pregnant, and it is the scariest fucking moment of their life, and they do get abortions. Well, until Roe v. Wade got turned around, and now that's no longer kind of an option anymore, but still, teens get pregnant, and it's still the scariest moment of their lives. So her joking around about a situation like that made me so fucking pissed. I went off on this bitch. But then she tried to play victim, saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault. I'm a total dummy." And I'm like, girl, you knew exactly what you were doing. 'Cause pranks take thinking. And pranks usually go with the thought of, how is someone going to react? And usually when you play that type of prank, you pretty much get the same reaction every time. And this isn't the only time she played victim. She did multiple other times. But since I don't have the freaking communications to actually bring up those exact moments, I can't talk about them right now since I don't want to misquote anything. But yeah, she played victim so many times whenever I called her out. And when I confronted her on trying to treat me as a therapist, she tried to play hypocrite, and I was like, oh hell no, I'm done. So we didn't talk for years until I moved back to Belmont. But then she started to do the same shit, treating me unfair, only messaging me when it benefited her, and we haven't spoken since. This girl is so vindictive, and looking back, I feel so fucking stupid for not listening to all the red flags that were blatantly up in the air, but also not really listening to her ex-boyfriend's side of the story. I say again, just because you're autistic doesn't mean you can get away with this type of shit. Autistic doesn't mean you can get away with being manipulative, vindictive, shit like this. Sure, autism is a spectrum, obviously, but it doesn't mean you can get away with stuff like that. That's no excuse. So, yeah, that's all for this video. If you have a partner that sounds like this, or even a friend that acts like this, best piece of advice I can give you, fucking leave. Because it's gonna become an emotionally draining fucking problem. And it's only going to weigh you down, because it did for me. But I will say, if you have a partner like this, I'm going to quote something from Illy. Treat every breakup like a lesson. I learned a big lesson from dating this woman. When you see a red flag, even multiple, run. Run away and never return. If they don't try to fix their mistakes even after they apologize, leave. Leave and never return, because they're never gonna change. So yeah, that's it for this video. Bye everyone.